XCon Media.
All right, let's talk about something that every single one of us has felt, but honestly, very few of us really get: anger. You know, it's that fiery, powerful force that can just completely hijack our best intentions. So, what if we could learn not just to control it, but to actually understand it? Let's dive in. I'm going to start with a question, and I'm willing to bet I know the answer for pretty much everyone listening. Have you ever, in a moment of anger, said or done something that you later just wished you could take back? Of course, right? That feeling is totally universal, and it's the exact reason we need a better way to handle this incredibly powerful emotion. So, when that feeling hits, what do we usually do? Well, it pretty much boils down to two main strategies. And let's be honest, neither of them is all that great for us in the long run. We can call them erupting and stuffing.
So this breaks down those two common ways we cope. On one side, you've got the eruptors. You know these people. They're the ones who let anger get behind the wheel. They might get aggressive, start blaming everybody, or, just yell at a coffee table after stubbing their toe. Then on the other side, you have the stuffers. They push their anger way down. They deny it. They basically stuff it in the trunk of the car. They're the ones who'll say, "Who, me? Angry? No, I'm just a little sad."
And this quote just nails the problem perfectly. As mindfulness expert Juna Mastad puts it, anger is like a child. You definitely don't want it driving the car. That leads to a total wreck. But stuffing it in the trunk isn't a solution either. When you suppress anger, it can cause all sorts of physical problems and basically makes it impossible to have clear boundaries. So the big takeaway here is we need a third option.
Okay, so to find that third option, we first have to understand what's actually going on in our brains when anger takes over. Why do we go from 0 to 60 in like a split second? Let's get into the science of it.
Let's make this simple and break the brain into two parts. First up, you've got the downstairs brain. Think of this as your own personal security guard. It's home to the amygdala, and its one and only job is to keep you safe. It controls those super fast, automatic reactions: fight, flight, or freeze. You touch a hot stove and pull your hand back before you even think about it? Yep, that's your downstairs brain doing its thing. And then you have the upstairs brain, your prefrontal cortex. This is like the rational CEO of your mind. It's the part that helps you think logically, solve tricky problems, act with kindness, and actually consider how other people might be feeling. In a perfect world, the upstairs and downstairs brain are working together. They're in constant communication. But here's what happens when we flip our lid. First, we perceive some kind of threat, and it doesn't even have to be a real physical one. This immediately triggers our emotional downstairs brain. And this is the crucial part. That downstairs brain hijacks the whole system. It basically slams the door shut, cutting off all communication with the rational upstairs brain. The CEO has left the building, and a panicked toddler is now running the show. So what is this threat that we're perceiving? Well, here's a really fascinating way to think about it from the school of life. A lot of the time, anger isn't born from just pure negativity. It's actually the result of disappointed optimism. Think about it. We get angry because we stubbornly hope that life will be fair, that traffic won't be terrible, that people will be considerate. Our anger is what happens when those expectations are suddenly crushed. And man, that really raises the stakes, doesn't it? If we can't manage that internal process, that flipping of the lid, it has huge consequences on the outside. How can anyone trust us with big responsibilities if our emotional responses are totally unpredictable? Suddenly, this isn't just about a personal feeling. It's about trust and competence. So if erupting and stuffing are both out, what are we supposed to do instead? Well, we need a process. We need to start thinking about our emotions like they're raw materials in a factory, materials that have to be processed before they can become something useful. There's this brilliant analogy that compares unprocessed emotions to a fish factory. Imagine the fish just keep coming down the conveyor belt, but all the processing machines are broken. What happens? The fish just pile up, right? They start to rot, and the whole place becomes toxic. Well, it's the exact same with our emotions. If we don't have a system to process them, they don't just disappear. They build up, and they cause a ton of stress. So this is what that system can look like. The raw emotion, the fish, enters the pipeline. The first machine is awareness, just noticing that it's there. The second is naming, putting a label on the feeling. The third is feeling it in your body, the bodily sensation. And only after it moves through all those stages can it come out the other side as something useful, clarified action. Okay, so that's the theory. But how do we actually do this in the heat of the moment? Let's get practical and load up our toolkit with some real actionable strategies.
All right, here is a fantastic 4-step internal toolkit. First, breathe. It sounds so simple, but taking deep breaths actually switches on our parasympathetic nervous system, which sends a signal to our body that we're safe. Second, name it. Seriously, studies show that just saying "I feel angry" can help calm that amygdala hijack. Third, do it differently. If you're usually an eruptor, try showing yourself some compassion. If you're a stuffer, try to safely embody the anger. Go ahead and clench your fists or growl into a pillow. And finally, inquire. Ask your anger, "Hey, what do you need me to see right now?"
And what about when anger pops up with other people? Dr. Christian Conte has some amazing advice here. First, let go of the need to be right. Is winning this one argument really worth the cost to your relationship? Second, don't take it personally. What someone else says is almost always a reflection of what's going on inside them. Also, check in. Are you just hungry or tired? And finally, be your own advocate. Don't expect people to be mind readers. Ask for what you want.
So, when we start to put all these pieces together, the science, the processing, the tools, we can actually start to make a really profound shift in our whole perspective. Anger is no longer the enemy to be defeated. It actually becomes an ally. When we really listen to our anger instead of just reacting to it, it offers us these incredible gifts. It's like a flashing red warning light that tells us when our boundaries are being crossed. It can help us heal parts of ourselves that have been frozen by past trauma. And maybe most importantly, anger inspires action. It shows us what's wrong and gives us the energy to actually do something about it.
And that right there, that gets to the absolute heart of what we've been talking about. This isn't about getting rid of anger. Real emotional regulation is not about suppression. It's about having the awareness and the skill to choose how you respond, instead of just being controlled by an automatic reaction. It's the difference between being a passenger in your own life and grabbing the steering wheel. So I'm just going to leave you with this question. The next time you feel that heat rising, that familiar tension building up inside you, are you going to see it as a threat that you need to squash? Or will you see it as an invitation? An invitation to pause, take a deep breath, and maybe finally get to know this powerful, misunderstood, and potent ally.